What is going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to talk to you on Lucid. I want to go over this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, go over some of the data points and everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And with that, let's get right to it. So based on Friday, it did go down 0.74%, a lot of volatility, as you can tell based on the range. When it comes to the volume though, 16.8 million shares being traded, 31.5 is the average. So that is relatively low. And at the time of doing this video, there hasn't been any SEC filings, no press releases. The last news was that referral program that did come out on the 23rd. But aside from that, absolutely nothing. And going into next week, there is going to be a little bit more of a bumpy ride, especially more so at the beginning part, because going into next week, currently the fear and greed index is at 24, which is considered extreme fear. So a lot of people are on edge. Of course, Amazon had their earnings, which was fairly good. That kind of gave a little bit more of a temporary relief to the massive downtrend that the market has been on. But still, I do feel that it's going to commence once again starting on Monday until one of two things happens. So on Wednesday, the Fed decision rate, I feel like that might be the next big thing to cause the market to go higher. Not necessarily because they're going to be cutting rates or raising rates or whatever else. I actually do agree with the forecast that they're going to maintain it, but rather I feel like he's going to be a little bit more optimistic about what he says afterwards. So that might in among itself cause the market to slow the downtrend and potentially go up, causing a lot of these stocks that have been massacred to have a little bit more of a value rally, because a lot of articles are coming out all about Lucid saying that essentially like things are been hit way too hard. A lot of analysts are starting to look at Lucid and the technicals and just see it massively oversold. So the majority of these articles that have been coming out are all talking on Lucid's technicals. So in my opinion, that could be one thing. So that's Wednesday at 2 o'clock. And then as well, Apple. So I think there's two companies at this stage in the game that have been able to really save the broader market in many of the past quarters. One is Apple and the other one is Amazon. So Amazon had their earnings last week. So if Apple does have a very good quarterly earnings and is very optimistic about the foreseeable future, once again, I feel like that might actually cause a nice rally essentially with that. But who knows? Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. I have been monitoring when it comes down to Lucid specific earnings to see if any analysts have changed anything. And as of late, they haven't. So no updates since October the 18th. So as it stands, around 9 analysts for the earnings per share have given estimates with a consensus of negative 35 cents per share. And revenue, it looks like there's around 8 analysts with a consensus of 192.72 million. So once again, no real changes when it comes down to that. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid's upcoming earnings. Do you think that it is going to be good, bad? What's your viewpoint on all that? There is, again, a lot of articles coming out essentially saying that because of Lucid's stock price getting hit so bad, even if Lucid was to have bad earnings, it might actually readjust and cause it to go up, which is a weird way to think of it, but potentially it could, right? Because the true point after a company's earnings, it does adjust to where it should be. So once again, Lucid's been hit so hard, it might make sense a little bit. So as far as influencing factors, those are it. So obviously Apple's earnings, as well as the Fed decision rate. So let me know your thoughts on those in the comments below. Latest round of 13Fs have been coming down the pipeline, and they oddly are kind of optimistic. So like I've said on previous videos, even though Lucid's stock price has been going down consistently and the technicals are breaking down many of the things, a lot of people still do see a lot of value in Lucid. So even during Q3, you can see a lot of institutions have been increasing their position. Of course, a lot of the bigger names such as BlackRock, Vanguard are going to be disclosing their position probably tail end of next week. So that's something to kind of consider as well. But overall though, a lot of institutions are still very much interested in Lucid. So once again, that's a pretty good thing. And also on a side note, this was posted on Twitter. And so obviously good old CR7, so Ronaldo, is very, very close to a Lucid heir. And of course, he's been very much ingrained in the whole Saudi lifestyle. So you never know. Imagine how epic that would be if he ever was to market for Lucid. That would be like huge. That would probably be one of the best marketing things that Lucid could ever do. As far as if they could afford him, I'm not really sure. I think he's kind of expensive for that. But still, no matter what though, we can always hope. Maybe we can just kind of Photoshop him in a Lucid Air or something like that. be kind of cool. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. But as far as data points, the options on Friday, roughly around $449,000 in calls being purchased versus 1.55 million in puts. So of course, as you can tell based on this, a lot of people were assuming that Lucid's stock price is just going to continue to break down. And even if we zoom out over the last 7 days, about 4.81 million in calls versus 9.33 million in puts. So people aren't necessarily the most optimistic when it comes down to Lucid. And looking at the call options, the open interest, people are anticipating for the actual upcoming earnings. So that's to encumber on the November 10th expiry date. People are assuming roughly between the about $5 to $6 range. So a lot more optimism there. So obviously a lot of people are kind of agreeing with a lot of those articles saying that essentially Lucid is kind of oversold and such. And looking at the puts though for that same time period, people are assuming that it's going to be sub $3.50. So a lot of people are assuming that the downtrend is going to continue. But moving on from here, let's talk on what shorts are currently doing, what they did on Friday, and what they might be doing this upcoming week. So short score is 87, utilization is 96.49, and on Friday, short did return about 1.81 million shares, 25.54% of the free float is being shorted, and 224.59 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost of our average is 13.3%, and through the interactive broker short availability does indicate that there's around 50,000 shares available to be shorted. So they don't have that much ammunition, and plus there's a lot of articles kind of saying the exact same thing, that if their upcoming earnings is positive, that might spark a little bit more of a squeeze, potentially of course. And so the way I analyze this information, the fact that they did return on a red day on Friday shows that they feel like it's not really justified. So this is a little bit more bullish in my opinion. Of course I could be wrong, I'm not a financial advisor. When it comes down to the technicals though, so you're having a little bit more conflicting information. So options activity, not necessarily the most optimistic, but what is the technical saying? With it at $4.04, it is between this S2 to this S1. So $3.94 is going to be that next strong support, and it did kind of bounce off of that around the new 52-week and all-time low of $3.98, and $4.21 is going to be the next strong resistance. Like I've said on the last couple of videos, the technicals are kind of breaking down, so I do feel that 350 might be the low, at least in the short term. So that would be kind of crazy. So like I said, a lot of articles are just saying how Lucid essentially has been just completely massacred and is very oversold. So if their earnings do come out, it might cause a little bit more of a positive reaction to that and cause value investors to get in. But once again, that's a little bit more far-fetched. But based on what I did say that's coming out next week, Wednesday and Thursday are days that you need to watch for, but the beginning part, you're going to have a little bit more of a sell-off as a result of just the massive amount of fear. So I do feel that this $3.94 unfortunately might not hold. So it would be trading between this S3 and this S2. Looking at this, though, the two indicators I like to look at, the momentum indicator shows number of retail investors haven't really been doing too much, and it is well below zero. So that does indicate that there's more sellers than buyers. The frequency, of course. So retail isn't necessarily buying the dip that it has been in the past. Stochastic is currently at 6, which is considered very oversold. No real defined trend right now. So like I've said, if earnings do come out and if there's some pretty positive surprises, it could cause value investors to get in. But once again, I think we just have to sit tight and wait. And like I've mentioned on the last couple of videos, a lot of this is looking bearish. So even though it might continue to go down, operationally, they are kind of moving in the right direction, slower than what a lot of people would really like, but they are still moving in the right direction, my own opinion. So I do feel for this upcoming week, the beginning part, it might actually start to trade between this S3 and this S2, but potentially because of what is said after the interest rate decision and Apple's earnings, it might bounce back to this S2 to this S1 and might stay there until their upcoming earnings, which in case you do not know, is on November the 7th. Let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that, and take advantage of this promo that I've been sharing with you. Link in the description below and also the comments. Sign up for a free account with me. Throw $100 at it though, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. One of the best deals in the market. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, I appreciate all of you watching.